hand over the session to Dr. Subba Rao to discuss more on the food safety, hygiene, and address your general curiosities on scientific principles behind these. Let me also state that enhancing food safety awareness and improving the health of our people is a collaborative effort. So, your feedback on this program, its format, and the topics that we should cover is invaluable to us. Please feel free to share your questions, your views, your opinion in the comment section or through the designated channels. We are here to listen and learn from you so that together we can build a healthier and safer food environment for everyone in India. So think of this as a Jan Bhagidari initiative and a people's partnership in creating a healthier nation. So with this, I would like to hand over the program to Dr. G. Subbarao. Over to you, sir.
Namaskar. Welcome to all of you. Thank you, Dr. Alkarauji, for that introduction. And I also acknowledge the presence of the CEO of FSSAI, Shri G. Kamlavardhan Rauji, online. And also, I understand that there are many students, there are technologists, food technologists, scientists, vendors, FBOs, and of course, several of our fellow citizens who are curious to know about food safety and hygiene. I'm very happy to moderate this very first Ayushman Bhav Samvad dialogues on food safety. And this is a great initiative by which the regulator is trying to reach out to people. It's not just an top down approach of giving information, but also trying to get feedback from people so as to improve and better the regulation and implementation of the same for the benefit of all of us. This is a great initiative, and I understand that there is going to be a series of such samvads in future. This is the first, and today we will discuss about food safety and hygiene. As you all know, food safety is very basic for human health. Food safety is fundamental, but do you understand how formidable a challenge it is, both at individual level as well as for regulatory purposes at a country level? Food safety, if compromised, food hygiene, if compromised, doesn't just impact the health of an individual, but it could have larger repercussion on the economy and the health of the nation itself. So it demands a lot of coordinated effort. And in today's context, when foods cross borders, several foods from other countries come into our country, our foods cross borders and go out to other nations. There is a need for harmonizing a lot of these regulations and safety standards with many of the countries. So that is a global challenge as well. And then it demands a coordinated effort, as I said, both at individual level, from the FBOs, the food business operators, the vendors, and also at the policy level. Do you know that unsafe food affects about 600 million people every year? There are 600 million cases of foodborne illnesses which are reported annually throughout the globe. And it costs as much as a billion US dollars for various economies. This is a staggering number. So it cannot be taken very easily. But who's responsible for safety of food? At individual level, we are responsible, but at a level, at interpersonal level and at a community level, it's the food business operators who provide food to us. They are also responsible, and the regulator is responsible for ensuring all the food that we get or we give our citizens is ensured as safe. And as Dr. Alkara has already elucidated, FSSAI, the Food Safety Standards Authority of India, actually works towards setting standards, regulation, and implementing of those regulations is with the state governments. Nevertheless, it works through several scientific panels which decide on various aspects of food safety, uh, culling out a lot of evidence from science that is available globally, and then custom making it for the context of India. And thus the standards that are set are approved by a scientific committee, and then it goes to a scientific and food authority, from food authority to the ministry, and thus it moves as a regulation. But before that, whether we are regulators, whether we are implementers, whether we are food business operators, we are all consumers in our own right. And as consumers, we have to have informed food choices. For informed food choices, we have to know what is safety and how safety is assured. So it is not just an ethical and regulatory binding for the FBOs, but for all of us, it is important to know how important food is for our health and how to ensure safety. Today, in this Samvad, we will discuss on two broad aspects of nutrition and food safety and food hygiene and their interlinkages, and the changing context of urbanization and other things, and how they are impacting food safety and what new challenges they pose to us. To discuss these issues with us, of course, as Mr. Sahil has said in the beginning, we will have an interactive session towards the end. But before we have questions from so many people who have joined online, about 1,000 of them, we're very happy that we will just go first with a few questions to my fellow panelists, Professor Pulkit Mathur and Dr. Anupaya. The first question, let me ask to Professor Pulkit Mathur. Pulkit Mathur actually works in the area of nutrition, food safety, and interlinkages of nutrition and food safety. And no other person is better than her to answer this very important question. And there is, from nutritional perspective, if you see, Professor Pulkit Mathur, how does foodborne illness or any illnesses related to foodborne illness, if food safety is compromised, does it impact absorption of nutrients or the goodness of the food, or vice versa? If there is a problem in a nutritional profile of a person, if nutrition is compromised, does it impact the absorption and safety of food itself? uh, and to say it in few words, पोषण और खाद्य के बीच में जो लिंकेज है उसके बारे में दो तीन सेंटेंसेस में हमें बोलिएगा.
So, Barav, for pointing out a very, very important aspect of foodborne illnesses. तो ये जो लिंक है न्यूट्रिशन और फूड सेफ्टी का, ये बहुत इम्पोर्टेंट है समझना. इट इज नॉट जस्ट अ सिंपल केस के डायरिया हो गया, वॉमिटिंग हो गया, क्या है, हम एक दिन में ठीक हो जाएंगे. We must know that diarrhea is a major killer of the under 5 child in our country, and that's a shame. Why should children in our country die of something like diarrhea because of unsafe food, unsafe water, right? So even if it doesn't kill, it is maiming our children. तो अगर वो इतना सीरियस नहीं भी है, बार बार repeated episodes of things like diarrhea, different kinds of foodborne illnesses affect the nutritional status of children and adults as well. And as a result, what is happening is we are seeing a lot of malnutrition in our children. डायरेक्ट स्टडीज हैं जो स्टंटिंग को लिंक करती हैं, क्योंकि ग्रोथ नहीं हो पाती है बच्चों की ठीक से, क्योंकि वो बार 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 वो बीमार पड़ते रहते हैं. इसमें क्या हो रहा है, क्यों नहीं उनकी ग्रोथ ठीक हो पा रही है? बिकॉज ये जो बैक्टीरिया हैं, ये वायरसेस हैं, पैरासाइट्स हैं, जो कि ये फूडबोर्न इलनेसेस कॉज करते हैं, वो जाके हमारी गट को डिस्ट्रॉय करते हैं. हमारे गट में विलाय है, फिंगर लाइक प्रोजेक्शन है, जहां से अब्जॉर्प्शन होता है सारे न्यूट्रिएंट्स का. आई थिंक बायोलॉजी में सबने ही पढ़ा होगा स्कूल लेवल पे. तो ये जो पैरासाइट्स होते हैं, ये जाके इन विलाय को डिस्ट्रॉय कर देते हैं, तो आपकी अब्जॉर्प्टिव सरफेस ही कम हो जाती है. वी ऑल्सो कॉल इट एनवायरमेंटल एंटेरिक डिसफंक्शन इन चिल्ड्रन, क्योंकि जहाँ रिपीटेड एपिसोड्स ऐसे होते हैं इन्फेक्शन के, तो वो विलाय जो है, हमारी अब्जॉर्प्टिव सरफेस है, वो कम हो जाती है. तो हमारी बॉडी कम खाना अब्सॉर्ब कर पाती है, कम न्यूट्रिएंट्स अब्सॉर्ब कर पाती है. एंड दैट इज हाउ malnutrition is linked with these foodborne illnesses. And a simple thing over here is washing hands. That is the simplest way to prevent these kind of diseases. कोविड में हम सब ने सीख लिए थे WHO के हैंड वॉशिंग के स्टेप्स, and that significantly reduced the infection rate. But please understand that this whole, this hand washing routine is important for fighting off all the other parasites, all the other viruses, bacteria which cause foodborne illness. So I would say that that is, the best weapon we have in our hands to wash our hands and, maintain hygiene and sanitation every time we handle food, every time we touch food. And that itself will save so many lives and so many people from becoming malnourished. Over to you, Professor.
Thank you, Professor Pulkit Mathur, for that explaining that very complex science in simple words. how unsafe food affects the gut and then absorption of nutrients and many things, and simple things like washing hands with soap, and other things that we will learn in few more questions later, as to how to ensure what we eat when we eat outside, how to ensure safety and things like that. But before that, I would want to go to my fellow panelist, Dr. Anuapaya, who's joining us all the way from Mysore, to please tell us about the foodborne diseases and the changing habits. We often see that the foodborne diseases and hygiene related issues and practices are little compromised with the economy of the people, and they tend to impact more of marginalized populations. How have changing food habits among marginalized populations impacted food safety thus far? And what are the hygiene practices, particularly in rural areas and resource compromised settings, that people have to take? Sir, can you just give an overview of this, please?
Sorry, sir. I think we have lost connection with Apaya, sir. So, meanwhile, we are trying to get him on board. So, you can continue the dialogue with Professor Mathur. Yeah.
Right. I think I can continue with
Yeah. Yes, sir.
Professor Mathur. And then, as we already heard, there is a direct linkage between nutrition, and then it is called the leaky bucket. You know, how good amount of nutrition that you put in the bucket, if it keeps leaking by way of diarrheal diseases or vomiting or whatever, which are usually caused by foodborne diseases, the absorption is hampered. Let's also know that there is a different perspective. There are a lot of ultra processed foods and foods that are high in fats and sugars and salt that are available across the country. And then how does increasing consumption of these foods, definitely it compromises the diversity that is required for getting nutrition. It's not that any food is good or bad, but the amount of diversity that determines whether it's good or bad. How does it impact the diet diversity and contribute to the risk of nutritional inadequacy among people of India, more so adults if you can take, and of course children as well? And what strategies do you recommend to promote balanced diet both at individual level as well as at a community level? Professor Mathur.
Yeah. So, the problem with the ultra processed foods is that most of them tend to be, as you said, high in fat, salt, or sugar. And the way we have now started consuming them, we see, through our surveys, how there is an increasing trend in consuming more of these. Why are we consuming more of these ultra processed foods? Simply because of convenience, but also because of the taste factor. So they are very tasty, and so most of our snacks now tend to be ultra processed, but ultra processed foods are also creeping into our main meals just because of the convenience factor and, of course, the taste factor. Now, the problem with all this is, number one, that it is increasing nutrients which are not so desirable. So, as we have already said, that high fat diets are not good for us, or high sugar or high salt in our foods is not good for us because it leads to many diseases, right? So, what is needed really is a balanced diet approach. We need to reduce the amount of these ultra processed foods. We cannot, totally do away perhaps with them immediately, but to reduce the frequency with which we consume. So, if once in a week or twice in a week we consume this, it really doesn't affect us. But if every day or every alternate day it becomes a major part of our diet, that is a problem. So, how do we balance all this? How do we balance the amount of nutrition? I think ICMR NIN has come out with a beautiful document which everyone should go through. This is called the Dietary Guidelines for Indians. In that, they have explained the concept of a balanced diet. So, all of us know that we should eat a balanced diet, but many are not clear what is the meaning of a balanced diet. Now, balanced diet explained in the dietary guidelines is through a plate, which means your thali, your everyday what you eat. So, a whole day's diet is depicted in a thali or a plate. And this is half the thali is fruits and vegetables. So, half the day's meals should be fruits and vegetables. A little more than a quarter is the cereals or the millets that we are consuming. And if you look at that picture, you will see how they are depicting diversity in that. So, one is eating all these food groups, and then, of course, there's a sliver of protein rich foods, which is our dals and pulses and legumes, or if you're non vegetarian, the fresh foods. And there is a sliver for giving us the energy through the fat and the good sources of fat, which are the nuts and oil seeds. And besides this thali, there is this glass of milk or dahi, which tells you these are the food groups that you have to have in every day, in your diet every day. And within each food group, if you eat a variety, the chances of including or getting all types of different micronutrients, which are your vitamins, minerals, and many other protective things which are there in your food. If you eat a variety of foods, then there is greater likelihood कि आप इन सबकी requirements meet करें. And then you are having a true balanced diet. So that's how they have explained it, and that's how we should also understand that every day we eat all the food groups, and say in a week we eat a variety from each food group so that we are able to include all these things in our diet. And we reduce the consumption of all these ultra processed foods to once in a while. We need, which also means that you're moving towards more of freshly cooked, more of minimally processed things which we prepare in our kitchen. And there the problem lies is inconvenience factor. And that's what probably, keeps you from taking to these. And the key answer to that lies in being prepared, in planning meals. So if you pre-plan meals and you understand, okay, this is the kind of processing or the pre-preparation I need to prepare my meal the next day, then things go a lot faster, you know, and you're able to cater to your family's requirements, to your own requirements by having freshly prepared food at home.
Thank you for bringing out that very important perspective of how convenience and the ease of use have taken over, and then the ultra processed foods have come into our diets every day. It is not just the food which is bad, but the extent of that which is determining whether it is good or bad to us. And then also the importance of diversity and colorful thali that you suggested. But the colorful thali should not come from ultra processed foods. It should be as much as possible minimally processed or moderately processed, and fresh cooked is suggested. And also, you've drawn attention to the dietary guidelines of the National Institute of Nutrition, which is very important for those who have missed that. Please look at the dietary guidelines. It's a worthwhile document for every citizen to know and learn. There are simple 17 guidelines that, if you practice, they incorporate food safety and hygiene as well along with nutrition. You can find it on the website of the National Institute of Nutrition, nin.res.in. Now, if we have Dr. Anu Appaya join us, do we have Mr. Sahil?
I'm here, Dr. Subbarao,
Welcome back.
but my video is not working. Sorry for that.
Okay, welcome back, Dr. Appaya. Thank you very much. And then, sorry, we lost you in between, but thank you. You rejoined. How we were discussing about food safety and nutrition, but the question about food safety issues combating resource poor people is a phenomenon everywhere. Of course, it doesn't. If the safety or hygiene is compromised, definitely it impacts everyone across the economic spectrum. But how have changing eating habits among marginalized populations impacted food safety and hygiene practices, particularly in rural areas and urban slums and other places?
Good morning, everyone. I see quite a lot of participants saying that, can you please give a Hindi translation? Can you please change over to Hindi, and so on and so forth. I'll try to speak a little in Hindi and a little more in English. Yes, food habits in, whether it's in the rural or in the urban area, as Dr. Pulkit Mathur was talking about, has definitely changed a lot. Today, we are in a situation wherein people are looking for an easier alternative, whether it's in the urban areas or in the rural areas. What has happened in the last 10 years is, even in the rural areas, all these processed foods are available. They may be available in smaller quantities, they may be, but then it's feasible and available. सारे सबसे छोटी दुकानों से भी आपको पैकेज फूड मिल जाएगा, जूस मिल जाएगा. So what is happening is, people are finding it easier to cross over to a shop than cook at home. This phenomenon we are seeing in the rural areas, at least from the last 5 to 7 years, we are seeing this, that people have minimized their cooking at home and are more dependent on buying something from the local shop or from the local vendor. Now, I'm not going to go into the discussion whether the local vendors are giving you a right food or not. But then what is today happening is that, as Pulkit Mathur madam was telling, the diversity in the food is getting restricted. Earlier, we used to have a village and whatever little vegetables are there, we used to share it. We used to eat a lot of greens that is locally available. We pick that, उसको ले आके घर में उससे हम कुछ ना कुछ बना देते थे और कुछ पराठे में डाल देते थे या सब्जी बना देते थे। अब ऐसे हो गई है कि वेजिटेबल्स भी अवेलेबल है हमारा विलेज में और कुकिंग का भी दिक्कत थोड़ा कम करने के लिए लोकल विलेज का खाना वाली से ही लेने की कोशिश कर रही है। Now, this has become a major trend. And with this, one of the important things that has happened is our dietary requirements are getting restricted. Whatever is available in that shop is the one that we are taking or buying or drinking. This as a phenomenon in the rural area has become a major issue. In the rural areas, we were not really looking at into lifestyle disorders, which probably in the next few sessions we'll be talking about. But then today we know a lot of lifestyle disorders even occurring in the villages also, mainly because of the eating habits being changed. Now, small little packages of beverages are available. I'm not saying that yes, beverages are bad, good, or anything like that. But then what has happened is instead of drinking a good beverage that is prepared at home, नींबू पानी होगा या कुछ और होगा जो घर में जो बनाया हुआ है. And South India, we have what is called as the ganji or the kanji. Now, these were the common things that we were all drinking. But today, we have all shifted over to either bottled drinks or packed drinks or coffee or tea. Tea mainly. So this has restricted our view on the food basket. So our food basket, instead of becoming larger in terms of vegetables, are becoming smaller in terms of vegetables and becoming larger in terms of sugar and carbohydrates.
True.
14 malnutrition has become a major issue mainly because of our eating habits. Vitamin deficiencies have become a major issue mainly because of our eating habits. Now this, we need to be changing it a little more quickly before we really enter into a phase where we cannot go back.
Okay.
Over to you.
Thank you very much. While we are on that subject, sir, you've also discussed quite a lot about the convenience and other things, and then also the availability, accessibility, and affordability of all kinds of foods, which determine how safe we make it. Uh, I'll go back to Professor Pulkit Mathur again with a question, continuing with the discussion that we have about convenience. Now we have so many of these online ordering, food ordering platforms. You just click a button and then it comes home in 10 minutes, 15 minutes delivered, whatever kind of food that you want. In such a scenario, how do you want or how do you recommend that the consumers handle safety related issues and what they should be looking for, especially not just the ones that they order online and then are delivered home, but also while consuming foods outside? What is that they need to look at?
Yeah. So it's very important. I know we are all foodies. हम लोग को खाना बहुत पसंद है इंडिया में. तो हम इग्नोर करते हैं हाइजीन और सैनिटेशन जहाँ से हम खाना खा रहे हैं फॉर द टेस्ट. कि अगर टेस्ट अच्छा है तो हमें और कुछ दिखाई नहीं देता. तो एक ये चलता है जो एटीट्यूड है इंडियन हम सब में, उसको थोड़ा हमको कम करना होगा कि चलो हमने बाहर खाया तो ये तो एक्सपेक्टेड ही है कि हमारा पेट खराब होगा. तो ये कोई एक्सपेक्टेड नहीं होना चाहिए. हमको नहीं एक्सेप्ट करना चाहिए कि कोई भी हमें खाना जो दे रहा है वो अनहाइजीनिक तरीके से बना रहा हो या नहीं कर रहा हो। I think this is the most important realization which we as consumers have to have. ये चलता है, अब नहीं चलेगा, क्योंकि कहीं भी वर्ल्ड में, मतलब ये नहीं है कि वहाँ स्ट्रीट फूड नहीं होता, वहाँ होता है स्ट्रीट फूड। कितनी कंट्रीज है जहाँ स्ट्रीट फूड बहुत ही साफ और बहुत ही हाइजीनिक तरीके से दिया जाता है। नाउ इसके लिए कौन रिस्पॉन्सिबल है? ऑफ कोर्स रेगुलेटर, फूड रेगुलेटर की जिम्मेदारी है, मगर वो हर गली हर कूचे में जाके नहीं मॉनिटर कर सकते कि कैसे फूड सर्व हो रहा है। ठीक है, इसमें किसका रोल है फिर? कंज्यूमर का। फूड बिजनेस ऑपरेटर किसकी बात सुनेगा? वो कंज्यूमर की बात सुनेगा, क्योंकि अगर कंज्यूमर उसको बिजनेस नहीं दे रहा है तो वो अपने आप को बदलेगा। तो क्यों हम एज अ कंज्यूमर डिमांड नहीं करते कि जो आपको खाना परोस रहा है, कोई जो आपको खाना दे रहा है, वो हाइजीन और सैनिटेशन मेंटेन कर रहा है? वो बेयर हैंड से कोई भी फूड आपका हैंडल कर रहा है, अपने हाथ से परोस के आपको दे रहा है, गोलगप्पे के पानी में उसने अपना हाथ स्वर्ल करा है, क्यों उसका हाथ ग्लव से कवर्ड नहीं है? तो ये चीजें हैं जो हमें डिमांड कि कोई भी बेयर हैंड से आपके फूड को हैंडल नहीं करना है। कोई भी आपके खाने जो बर्तन जिसमें आपको दिया जा रहा है वो साफ है, कि वो खाली एक बकेट रखी हुई है, उसमें उसमें वो डिप कर करके साफ कर रहा है कर्सली, कि उसने ठीक से आपके हाइजीन और सैनिटेशन से अपना रेस्टोरेंट नहीं रखा हुआ है। पेस्ट घूम रहे हैं, आपको कॉकरोच दिख रहा है, आपको मक्खी दिख रही है, क्यों आप एक्सेप्ट कर रहे हैं? क्यों नहीं आप उस फूड बिजनेस ऑपरेटर को फीडबैक दे रहे हैं, उसको बॉयकॉट कर रहे हैं कि जब तक तुम इम्प्रूव नहीं करोगे अपना हाइजीन सैनिटेशन, हम वहां नहीं खाएंगे। दिस इज द बेसिक। जब हम बाहर खाते हैं, अच्छा, अब जब हम ऑनलाइन ऑर्डर कर रहे हैं तो हमें कैसे पता लगेगा कि वो कैसे हैंडल कर रहा है फूड? तो हाइजीन रेटिंग एक एफएसएसएआई का इनिशिएटिव है, जो कि अब काफी ऑपरेटर्स को इनकरेज करा जा रहा है, बिजनेस ऑपरेटर्स को, कि आप हाइजीन रेटिंग लीजिए। और ये डिस्प्ले होती है जोमेटो स्विगी का, काफी प्लेटफॉर्म्स हैं जो जिन्होंने ली है ये हाइजीन रेटिंग, उनका डिस्प्ले होता है कि हमारी हाइजीन रेटिंग इट्स अ 5 स्टार हाइजीन रेटिंग। तो 3 और उससे ऊपर अगर मिल रही है किसी ऑपरेटर को हाइजीन रेटिंग, तो वो डिसेंट हाइजीन स्टेटस मेंटेन कर रहा है। उससे कम है तो ऑब्वियसली वो हाइजीनिक नहीं है, वहां पे सैनिटेशन की प्रॉब्लम है। तो इस तरीके से भी हम आइडेंटिफाई कर सकते हैं जहां हम ऑपरेशन को नहीं देख पाते। तो अगर जहां आप देख रहे हैं ऑपरेशन को और फिर भी उसको एक्सेप्ट कर रहे हैं जस्ट बिकॉज उसका खाना टेस्टी है, आप बोल के तो देखिए, आप बोल के देखिए, और जब उसको मिलेगा फीडबैक इतनी बार, तो वो अपना ऑपरेशन ज्यादा साफ सुथरा बनाएगा, वो ज्यादा प्रिकॉशंस लेगा, बिकॉज आप एक्सेप्ट कर रहे हो उसका खाना ऐसे ही। तो उसको क्या जरूरत पड़ी है कुछ भी चेंज करने की? आने दो किसी भी रेगुलेटर को, वो ही विल मैनेज। But it is the responsibility, at least I feel that it is very important that the consumer has to demand safe food from food business operators, and then only people change. Of course, FSSAI is doing a lot in this regard. उनका clean street food hub है. They are setting these up in different cities. They are trying to, organize these फूड बिजनेस ऑपरेटर्स, ताकि उनको फैसिलिटीज देके उनका एनवायरनमेंट ठीक करके, so that they are able to cater good and hygienic food to you. But as a consumer, आपकी बहुत बड़ी रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी है कि आप डिमांड करें हर फूड बिजनेस ऑपरेटर से कि वो आपको सेफ फूड सर्व करे, सेफ फूड एंड टेस्टी।
Right. Thank you for those who have been, in the chat who've been writing that it has to be in English as well. I'll just sum up what Professor Mathur said. It is not just the ethical and moral responsibility of the vendor to assure food safety to us. We as consumers also have some simple methods by which we can check the safety of food that is being dished out to us when we go out to eat. First, ensure that food is hot, served, cooked freshly, and then is served hot to you. The second and most important, look out for the surroundings. Third and most important, look out for the people, the food handlers, the preparers, how hygienic they are, whether simple things like wearing a glove and other things are taken into consideration. and whether are they touching many things at one go, and cross contamination can happen between cooked, uncooked, and veg and non-veg. So whether they are touching many things at one go, these are simple things. When you're ordering online, how do you ensure safety? Because you'll not be able to see who's sending and what, but there is hygiene rating that is mandated by FSSAI, that is there on the apps. Please check for hygiene rating, because these are the ones that ensure that minimum parameters are met for serving food. Once they are there, the hygiene rating is given. So these are some of the things that we can do. We'll go back to Dr. Apaya once again. I think we've discussed about foods, nutrition, and other things. An integral part of nutrition is also water and water intake. And most of the food safety issues crop up from unsafe water. And it is said that the diarrheal diseases that happen among children below age of 5 years in India, most are accounted for by the unsafe drinking water that they get, or mothers and other food handlers not washing their hands with soap. So if that is the case, we'll ask Dr. Apai about the water, the portability of water, and there are lots of waters that the people, I mean, the source for drinking. It could be tap water, it could be well water, it could be community water systems. And what measures do we need to take to ensure that the water that we use at consumer level is safe? Dr. Apaya, can you just
Yeah,
elucidate?
yeah. Uh, yes, that's a wonderful question, because water is the most integral part of any cooking. And if you look, if the customers look at the label, the first thing that you have to do is start looking at the labels. If you look at the label, you'll find water at the top. That means to say the highest amount of material that is packed in whichever pack that you're buying, water is a major material that is in that pack. Now, in a rural setting or even in an urban setting, the major water that comes is from the tap, and in a rural setting, it's from a well or from a community water body. Today, what has happened is the community water body is being used for multiple requirements, even to wash clothes, have bath, everything. And then the contamination is bound to happen. At the same time, the inlet, that means to say when it rains, जब बारिश होती है तो ये कम्युनिटी कुएं में पानी कहाँ से आती है? आपकी खेत से आएगा या आपकी रोड से आएगा? जितना गंदगी वो रोड में है या आपके खेत में है, वो सारा निकल के आपका कम्युनिटी सेंटर और कम्युनिटी वाटर बॉडी में ही आएगा. Now, the major issue with a community water body that happens is whenever there is a rain or whenever the water is flowing through a agriculture land, it brings in all the extra pesticides that is added, the extra fertilizer that is added into the community water body. Now, this community water body, because of the high content of nutrients that is present, lot of organisms, unwanted organisms, start growing in that. Added to that, the human activity. We wash our cattle also there. We wash our clothes. We also have a bath, which makes it extremely dirty. Hence, drinking water from a community water body today has become quite dangerous. Almost around 80% of our community water bodies are totally contaminated today, either with nitrogenous fertilizers or with pesticides or with the human activity and the animal activity that is surrounding that. The next is, I'll come one by one. The next is the most important, and Government of India also has a very large program, Jal Se Nal, that is the tap water. Now, please remember, the tap water also is pumped from some of the other water source, and it passes through various handling systems. Even though your town panchayat or the local panchayat or the village panchayat or the municipality is actually putting a very good water purification unit, there is no water that is supplied 24/7. 24 घंटे तो आपकी घर में पानी नलके में नहीं आएगा, कुछ घंटों के लिए आएगा. And during this pumping, either during pumping into your houses or pumping into the water purification centers or the water tanks, as we call it, there will be one or two places where there's a small leakage. And when we stop the pumping, there is a negative pressure created in the pipeline, and whatever dirty water that is accumulated due to that leakage now gets sucked into the system. So many times we find that our tap water also gets contaminated, not because our municipality has not done a good job or because the town panchayat has not done a good job, but because of the leakages that has happened in between, and these leakages now leading to unwanted organisms growing and human and animal activity in that region. So the contaminants do come in. So one of the advices that normally is given to people is, from the tap when you get water, probably filter them a little, if not with anything, just with a cloth, and then boil them and drink. So this is basically a tradition which Indians have been following from a very long time. अभी जो भी पानी आती है तो घर में तो उसको थोड़ा गर्म करके या गर्म पानी पीने का आदत तो हम सबको है. Maybe because of our changing food habits, now we have started drinking cold water from the refrigerator. Please refrain from this. Try to have boiled water, boiled cooled water. It's always good to have it. Now, the third water body, or the most important water body when it comes to a village setting, is the well. जब कुएं में से पानी निकल के पीना शुरू करेंगे आप, अपने आप आपका जो हेल्थ और वेलनेस दोनों ठीक हो जाएगा. Because quite often our wells are the least contaminated water bodies, except in some places where there's contamination in the soil. Say, for example, in some places we have heavy metal contamination. In some places we have leakage from various other sources getting into the well, such contaminations. Otherwise, our well waters are very clean and neat. But then again, the well waters are stored waters. Over a period of time, algal growth may happen, some microbial growth may happen. So it's always better to filter the well water and warm that a little or boil that and then drink. Now, I've seen many people doing a big mistake. What we do, we boil the water, and to cool that water, we add unboiled water and drink it. Now, what you're doing, you're now boiled a water, which is now, you have removed the contamination from it, but you have mixed it with a contaminated water. And then you say that the water supplied by the society or the village panchayat or the town panchayat is not good. So whenever you are trying to boil the water and drink it, you boil the water, cool them, and then drink. This is the most important message that I would like to give you. So community water, try to avoid as much as possible. If you don't have any other water source, then please filter them properly, either through cloth or through some mesh, or even boil them properly, and only then you drink. Tap water, I would rather say, please boil and cool and then drink. Try to avoid drinking directly from the refrigerator or very cold water. Thank you.
Sir, is there any specific method of boiling or duration that the water has to be boiled?
Okay, we normally say, I didn't want to get into that. Yes, we normally say that you boil water for around, say, around 15 minutes, then allow it to cool. Because why 15 minutes? One of the major group of organisms that gets contaminated or contaminates our water is the spore formers. And the spore formers will not die if you have just boiled it for 1 or 2 minutes. It will take at least around 15 minutes for continuous boiling, or keep it in boiling. If you are using a gas, once the water has started boiling, please reduce it to sim, allow it to simmer for the next 10 to 15 minutes, then switch it off, allow the water to cool, then use it.
Right, sir. And then one brief outline of the filters that we use and then RO systems that we use. They're also good. Uh, but if the best and traditional method would be boiling and cooling and drinking, as you said,
Yeah.
and traditional filters, candle filters should also be good to remove certain contaminants.
Yes.
Am I right about it?
Yes. Traditional candle filters are very good, provided you are cleaning them. You need
Yes,
to clean your traditional candle filters at least once in 15 days. If you don't clean it, please remember you are getting contamination. I've seen
correct.
families where children have continuous cold and cough only because they have not cleaned their filters properly.
Right,
And when we have done the complete investigation, we found ultimately that it is their filters that are contaminated. Now, whenever such cases come, we start from the filter instead of starting from the water source. We start from the filter and say whether your filter is clean or not. Okay. Coming to nowadays, all the MPs and MLAs have put up what is called as the water kiosk, that is RO water.
mm,
Please remember, whenever you're producing 1 liter of RO water is good, but not very good because it removes all the nutrients and only a certain amount of mineral nutrients is present in that. But then, under a condition that we have in our country, at present we don't have any other alternative. Hence, RO water is the only alternative that we have till we come up with a better alternative. Yes. But then what is the drawback of the RO water? Whenever we are producing 1 liter of RO water, let us always remember we are producing 1.5 to 2 liters of wastewater. Where does this wastewater go? It goes back into our water stream again, contaminating few more water bodies. So hence, when you are using RO water, please use it, please restrict its use. Maybe use it only for cooking and drinking. Don't use it for anything else, so that the amount of water that you're taking from the RO plant itself is minimized. Hence, the amount of wastewater that you're letting out is also minimized.
right. Thank you, sir, for those insights. Now I'll go back to Professor Pulkit Mathur once again to ask her about the knowledge gaps. There are usually a lot of knowledge gaps in your research. Also, you would have found that you deal with community nutrition and then speak to people and in communities and groups. And then there is a lot of knowledge, especially among I don't see that it is just a problem in the low income families. It's everywhere. Uh, there is, I mean, there is knowledge often, but not appropriate knowledge, because we have many sources from which we gather information. The authentic source and the right source, people sometimes may miss out on that, and then it contributes to barriers in adopting good and healthy and nutritional practices as well as food safety practices. What kind of interventions targeted to what groups would be very, very helpful to recommend? What do you recommend to address these challenges of information inadequacy or inadequate information being there and inappropriate information being there with the people? How do we combat this problem?
Yeah, this is a very important question you've asked, Dr. Subbarao, because what we find is, and this is across, you're right, across income groups, there is very little knowledge per se about nutrition, what the different nutrients do to our body, and hence an appreciation of what kind of diet is healthy and what is unhealthy. So that whole distinction between which are the foods I have to eat more of, which are the foods which I have to restrict or eat in moderation, that knowledge is missing. And one of the primary reasons, and again, a bit of your research and many other institutes have done this research of reviewing our curriculum. What are we teaching our children? What are we teaching our population in general about nutrition? So if you look at the curriculum, you see that बहुत कम पढ़ाया जा रहा है about nutrition. So there is very little content in our school curriculum, in our college curriculum, where in a formal way कोई भी आपको nutrition के बारे में बता रहा है. तो कहाँ से ले रहे हैं सब नॉलेज? वो इंटरनेट से ले रहे हैं, सोशल मीडिया से ले रहे हैं, वेर ऑल एंड सन्ड्री आर देयर एंड पोजिंग कि ये बेस्ट है खाना, ऐसे खाइए तो आपका ये प्रॉब्लम सॉल्व हो जाएगा, ये डायबिटिक्स को ऐसे खाना चाहिए, हार्ट डिजीज के लिए ऐसे खाना चाहिए. So who is monitoring? How are we to control this kind of information overload and the quality of the information which is out? That is just one part of the problem. The other part of the problem is what is a barrier in the person's mind, in any person's mind, to not eat healthy. So those who know also are not eating healthy. And the reason is the disconnect between food and nutrition. तो आप खाने को जब देखते हो आप उसको एक न्यूट्रिशन का सोर्स नहीं देखते. Why we eat food, हम लोग क्यों खाना खाते हैं, is a very different answer for different people. So very few people say I eat it from nourishing my body. Most people say कि क्योंकि टेस्ट के लिए हम खाते हैं. It's a source of enjoyment. It is something which gives us joy, and hence we don't want to eat healthy. और दूसरा मिसकंसेप्शन ये है कि हेल्दी खाना मीन्स बहुत ही अनएपेटाइजिंग बॉइल्ड खाना, food which is not uh,
True.
attractive, or food which is not going to taste very good. तो ये जो डिस्कनेक्ट है लोगों के माइंड में, दैट बिकम्स द बिगेस्ट बैरियर फॉर एनी न्यूट्रिशन इंटरवेंशन स्ट्रेटजी टू टैकल. कि फर्स्ट आप ये मिसकंसेप्शन हटाइए कि हेल्दी खाना मीन्स कि वो टेस्टी नहीं होगा. That is so untrue. We can have such wonderful tasty dishes made which are also healthy. So everything which is you know unhealthy seems more tasty, and what is healthy seems not so tasty. That is one mental barrier which any intervention has to tackle. Number one. The other thing which is a big barrier is that you say I don't have the time to make all these specially prepared, minimally
Mm,
processed,
mm.
diverse meals and include so many things in my diet. I don't have the time. So that has to be created. It has to be a part of your lifestyle. So there are so many ways in which these problems can be tackled. So interventions in terms of improving food environments mean that we look at what is being supplied. So the food business operators, okay, they will cater to a certain taste, and they will not have. So when you eat out, when you're traveling, one of the biggest problems anyone faces is कि आप चाह रहे हो कि आप हेल्दी खाओ, मगर वो है ही नहीं मेन्यू में, आपको मिल ही नहीं रहा है कहीं पे खाना जो हेल्दी है. So that has to come now into the menus where people, one side is कि आप लोगों को मोटिवेट कर रहे हैं, आप कंज्यूमर्स को मोटिवेट कर रहे हैं to eat healthy. The other side is you are improving the food environment and making these foods, one, readily available, and two, affordable. क्योंकि the next excuse which people have is ये healthy खाना बहुत expensive है. I cannot afford to buy so many fruits and vegetables. आप बोल रहे हो आधी थाली आपकी fruits and vegetables होनी चाहिए, प्राइसेस बहुत ज्यादा है इनके. So दोनों interventions have to be from both angles. So here the government can facilitate जो healthy foods हैं, they are somehow the cost is reduced. The unhealthy foods, why don't we tax them and make them more expensive? अगर 5 रुपए है मेरे पास, I can buy a packet of chips or a packet of any other of these packaged high fat, high salt namkeens, but I with 5 rupees I struggle to find something which is healthy. Even the banana now costs more than 5 rupees sometimes, or an egg, or anything else which is much more healthy. So can we facilitate that?
Okay.
So there are many things that we need to target. First of all, as I said, the nutrition literacy part, that we all have to be at least literate
Right.
in basic food concepts and basic nutrition concepts, at least to the level कि हमें पता चल जाए कि ये चीज हमें ज्यादा खानी है, ये चीज हमें मॉडरेटली खानी है, और ये चीज हमको बहुत कम खानी है. क्योंकि ऐसा कोई फूड नहीं है जो हम बोलते हैं ये तो आप कभी भी नहीं खाओगे अपनी लाइफ में. So that also becomes very difficult to follow. But yes, if we divide it into this you eat more of, this you eat less, and this you eat very less, इतनी नॉलेज आ जाए लोगों में. एक और चीज मैं यहाँ बोलना चाहूंगी, एक और जो बैरियर हम देखते हैं रिसर्च स्टडीज में, उसमें लोग ये एक्सप्रेस करते हैं कि हमारे पास स्किल ही नहीं है खाना बनाने की, या हम नहीं जानते, हम बच्चे हैं, हम डिपेंड करते हैं
Mm.
अपने पेरेंट्स पे या किसी और पे कि वो हमको बना के देंगे. अगर वो है ही नहीं घर में, वो हमारे को कुछ दे नहीं सकते, तो हम नेक्स्ट बेस्ट थिंग क्या है कि हम we pick up some packaged food and snack, and that is what we will eat when we are hungry. So here again, that whole skill building of how a child, an individual, anybody is able to fix themselves a healthy snack, a meal, themselves. So that skill building, that basic cooking skill should now become a very important life skill which
Yes.
everybody should have, right? So I think that's some of the main points that come to my mind regarding this.
Thank
Thank
you. I completely agree with you that the three or four important things: know the source from which you're getting information about foods, whether what they are saying is right or not. So trust on the sources that are very scientific and authentic. Of course, FSSI itself provides a lot of information on its website. All of you are welcome to see various aspects related to nutrition and food safety in our day-to-day life are available as resources on FSSAI. Also, institutes like National Institute of Nutrition and Ministry of Health, you can see a lot of this information is available. Trust the most authentic ones. And the second one is about skill in cooking. Let it be a part of our skill that we teach our children, and also integration in curriculum. These are all on individual and interpersonal level, but at a regulatory and ministerial level, ensuring food environments. Nice points, Professor Pulkit. And I think since it is an interactive session, we'll have to take more questions. But from people, before we take questions, I have one last question to ask Dr. Appaya about. Dr. Anupaya, can you tell us about a lot of changes happening globally, climate-wise, and then there are several challenges that a lot of newer issues are coming up in terms of food, and then the One Health approach, and also we have issues related to chemicals, pesticides, and those things. So, what are the biggest challenges that you foresee for food safety and hygiene? As we combat these challenges, we keep getting more newer ones. So, what do you see are the major challenges that we have to tackle in the next one decade?
Okay. First of all, my video started working. Thanks for that.
Thank you.
Okay.
We're nice to
Yeah.
have you.
Yeah. Yes. The whole world is going through a phase where climate change is impacting the agriculture system itself, the food production system itself. Places where it was not raining, it's raining heavily. Where places where it was raining heavily have got very, very less rains. Summer temperatures are increasing very high already in the whole country. I think summer, even though the winter has not gone yet according to the season, summer has come with vengeance, I would rather say, because already the temperatures in many places have reached 38 to 40. That means to say, this year the summer may be very hot. Now, with this, there are few things that happens. One, when it comes to agriculture, the most important thing that happens is when the temperature increases, the insect activity also increases. When the insect activity increases, you will be spraying a lot more pesticide than what you were actually doing earlier. Now, hence, pesticide contamination is going to be a major issue in the years to come. We have developed, I would rather say, our agriculture scientists and all of them have done a wonderful job in developing a lot of drought resistant varieties. Whether it is Jawar itself, Jawar itself is a drought resistant variety. It is a C3 plant. Hence, the productivity of those plants will increase when the temperatures go up. But then when it comes to dals and um, oil seeds, we have developed a lot of heat resistant varieties or drought resistant varieties, as we call it. As even paddy, we have plenty of drought resistant varieties that has come into play now. So food security may not be a major challenge in the next 10 years or so to come, according to my assumption. But then food safety is going to be a major issue. Bacterial contamination is going to increase. Pesticide contamination is going to increase because the pest ravages are going to be much more common, and then the farmers will have to use much more tougher or much more cycles of pesticides to be sprayed, so on and so forth. Hence, we are into a challenging situation. Now, already there are some crops where the prices of those crops have gone up very high. I would rather take some of these crops, one of them being coffee. The coffee of the world over, the coffee production has decreased because we had a severe drought in the coffee producing areas and very heavy rains in some of the Southeast Asian areas. Spices. Many of these spices are going to be extremely expensive. In fact, one of the oil seeds that is going to be oil that is going to be very, very expensive, it has already become expensive, is anyway, we are not the major producers, or we almost don't produce any olive oil in our country, but we consume a lot of olive oil. Those people who are consuming olive oil would have already seen that the prices of olive oil has gone up almost by around 20 to 25%. It's going to go up much, much higher because the olive production in the whole world has come down drastically. Extra virgin oil is going to be very, very expensive. So many of these oil seeds are also going to be oil is going to be very, very expensive. Along with that means to say their production itself is going to be reduced. But it doesn't mean to say that the total amount of food that is available for each human being is going to be reduced. But the quality of the food is going to be drastically be reduced. We will see a lot more. In fact, when COVID happened, people were talking what would be the next pandemic. And there was a lot of discussion. One, people were discussing that the water is going to be the major issue. In fact, when World War II or World War II stopped, people had predicted World War III is going to happen over water.
Water, yeah.
Because water is going to be scarce. Whenever the temperatures go up, your rain pattern changes, drought situation becomes very common. Water is going to be very, very scarce. So the farmers have to be taught to minimize their water utilization, use improvised irrigation systems, and so on and so forth. But then, when it comes to food safety, bacterial infection and fungal infestation, especially fungal infestation, is going to be very, very high. Insect infestation is going to be very high. Hence, you need to be looking at your pack very carefully, reading the labels very carefully whenever you're picking up a packed food. We would rather say, don't pick up a packed food. Yes, but it is not possible. We need to pick up packed food in some other form. Children, when they are born, they do not have any sense of any taste. We teach them.
Correct.
We teach them what is salt, what is sweet.
Yes.
And we see to it that we put a lot more sweet, that they get addicted to sweet.
Yes.
And that's why they eat a lot more sweet. You try to give them plain, bland food. They learn to enjoy that taste itself. So in the years to come, the two important aspects that is going to happen is whether we are going to have a pandemic or not. I'm not a predictor here, but then bacterial infection and waterborne disease, foodborne disease is going to be very, very common. The handling of the food is going to be a massive effort. See, what you can handle, or you can keep cooked food outside somewhere at around 20-25 degrees, probably for around 2-3 hours without any issue. But when your temperature has gone up to 45 and you keep your cooked food outside, even for 1 hour, please remember it's already contaminated. That is going to be a major issue.
Yeah.
So foodborne infection, waterborne infection is going to be the major issue. Pesticide and nitrate residues is going to be another major issue that we are going to face in the next 10 years. And we need to gear up to this. And as customers, as consumers, we need to be aware of things as to where we should be looking at the right information. We need to look into the right information, learn to read the label in between the lines also. Now, please go to the websites of FSSAI. You'll find that the same thing can be called in multiple ways. For example, sugar need not have to be called as sugar. There are at least around 19-20 different names for sugar. So packed water, what we get is packaged drinking water. They are not mineral water.
Mineral water.
But
Yeah.
quite often we say mineral water.
True.
Mineral waters are, yes, we do get mineral water also, but mineral waters are entirely different from packaged drinking water. And how is it being packed? Where is it being packed? Have they followed all the requirements of packaging?
Yeah.
That needs to be taken into consideration. So food safety is going to be a major issue in the next 10 years, especially with the weather change.
Yes, I think it's going to be responsibility from all of us also, as much as climate change will impact a lot of things, and then agriculture has to align with what is climate friendly in that particular region. Then all these challenges will pose bigger challenges to food safety, but at our level as consumers, we need to be aware of things, and then we need to develop those important skills. Now that it is a samvad, it is an interactive session, let's open the discussion for some questions from the participants. uh, do we um, do we take questions from the participants? Mr. Sahil, you want to
Sir.
do
No, sir.
the...
So thank you
Yes,
so
please.
much, sir. And as you could see, the number has consistently exceeded 1,000, and the chat itself is very vibrant. So I don't
Yes.
know how many questions we can take because we have a paucity of time. So we will start with one student who has been eagerly waiting for her question to be asked, and food safety is actually very, very important to you, Ritu.
Good morning, sir. Thank you for giving me this opportunity. I have a question regarding the food safety and hygiene. Sir, I understand the food safety and hygiene concern for the students, especially those who are living away from their homes. So, what are the steps to be taken by us to prevent foodborne illness and also to adopt a healthy lifestyle for the students?
Yeah, okay. She is talking about students who stay away from home, and day to day they'll have to eat food from outside because they're not at home. So, what are the precautions that they need to take? Dr. Pulkit, you will go, or...
मनसे गेलीचा हो कटई नीलीचा शुभ में तलचा ब्रतकनले नीला
Eat and drink less of processed food. Eat what is given in your hostel than ordering from outside because they are freshly prepared. At least in the hostel, you're sure that it is freshly prepared. And keep it to bare minimum. Don't overeat something that you very like it and undereat something that you don't like. Keep, as Pulkit madam in the beginning itself said, see to it that your plate is measured. 3/4 of it has to be fruits and vegetables.
Yes, Dr. Pulkit Mathur, 3 messages from your side. 3 habits that people living in hostels should develop.
తప్పంతా
If
నాదేలే
you're in a hostel where
చూపించగలలే నీకిచ్చా దిగులే
all hostels have the student committees that closely monitor the hygiene and the sanity. Where the most important thing, of course, besides hygiene and sanity, is the temperature at which your food is being served. So anything that you order from outside, please reheat to a high temperature. Liquid will start to boil, and if it's solid, then if you can see steam, then you know that you have reheated the food. That's very important. If you have a fridge in your city or wherever you're staying, just make sure it is clean, get regularly, and that you don't overstuff. Because then it's never reduced. So mainly it is your time. So don't eat food, don't eat outside for more than 2 hours. You know, these are simple things. And of course, personal hand washing.
Listen now on Spotify.
Irrespective
With
of
Spotify Premium,
whether
enjoy
you are
3 ways to
Instagram
listen.
person.
Play your music in
Just
order, mix things up with
retain
Play
your
on Shuffle,
personal
or try
hair.
Smart Shuffle to mix in
Store
personalized
your food
recommendations.
properly and
Plus,
keep it
enjoy
at the right
unlimited
time.
skips to craft your perfect
Thank you,
soundtrack.
Ritu. You have
Take
quite
control
many
of how you
suggestions.
listen.
First,
Tap to
watch at your
explore
level.
Premium.
use fridge properly, don't overstuff, don't cross
The
contaminate.
best mascara to
Third and
buy
most
is.
important,
Okay,
it
now
is
the men have
collective
sold out. We have
responsibility when
only
you're
30
staying
seconds to get
outside.
through to you.
I'm Sakshi
Hospital
Shamdasani.
And I'm
committees
Nana
which
Bhan.
look
And
at
Moment of
the
Silence
menu
is a
and things
yapathon
like
for all
that.
the strong,
Students
independent
should
women who
take
want to laugh at their
responsibility of not
problems.
just
20 seconds
taste,
left.
but also
Okay, we
hygiene.
talked about love,
These are
access,
three
weddings,
messages
therapy.
from
And why men will
Pulkit.
literally do anything
And,
except
Dr.
Gurudhar.
10
Alkaya
seconds.
said,
Just listen to the
don't
podcast.
overstuff
Just go
yourself,
search for
don't
Moment of
overeat
Silence on
anything.
Spotify and stream
Choose
now.
as much as possible freshly prepared foods. And third and most important is try and take a lot of fruit and vegetable as well. Right. Thank you very much. These are very
Thank you, sir.
nice messages.
Yeah. Thank you,
Right?
Ritu. Thank you, Ritu. And I hope the wait was worth it. So the next question we have an interesting set of audience. We have scientists also. So we got a project scientist, Miss Vidam Kalsi. Vidam,
మనసు
you
మరి
can unmute
మత్తుగా
yourself and ask your question.
తూగిపోతున్నదే ఏమో ఈ
Am I audible? Good
వేళ.
afternoon to all.
Yeah, you are
First
audible.
of all, I would like to thank all the panelists for this wonderful
అంతగా
discussion. So my question to you
కవ్విస్తావే
is, in any event of a foodborne illness outbreak, so
కిలాడి
what steps
కోమలి
should be like immediately taken by the handlers or the FBOs to like investigate and like maintaining the situation and controlling that current situation in the foodborne illness outbreak. So what can you
మనసు
just
మరి మత్తుగా
This
తూగిపోతున్నదే
question is to
ఏమో
Dr. Subbarao
ఈ
only.
వేళ.
So you're asking what is the question on foodborne illnesses and outbreak? In that case, what should we do?
yes, sir.
Yeah, in case of outbreak, there are immediate steps that the government usually takes. Government deputes a multidisciplinary team to look at what's the reason for outbreak. While that be a question, the usual places that we see food safety compromises happening is in large gatherings and catering services which happen because a lot of cross contamination happens. The food temperature is not maintained well. It's prepared long time ago is served, and these things are important. So when you are eating gatherings and functions and things like that, be very careful.
Hilo, hilo,
Hot foods, that needs to be hot, and then try and avoid salads because there is a lot of possibility of cross contamination. If it is large scale gathering, if it's small scale, you are preparing yourself. Salads are most healthy, but salads are healthy otherwise also. Safety can be compromised. But in case of outbreaks, to investigate those outbreaks, the local food authority, the local food regulator and implementer, they will take the responsibility. But if you're upon eating any packaged food, if you're facing any difficulty, you still have the customer care number to which you can call. You all note that there is a food safety helpline that is there. Look at the helpline. That's the reason why we are encouraging you to go to
మనసులో
Food Safety Standards Authority of India website
రహస్యాలేవో
regularly. There
చెప్పే
are a lot of
క్షణం
resources that we can use, and it's a collective responsibility from all our sides to take care of any foodborne illness, whether it is an outbreak or at an individual level.
నీలో ఉంచా
While the regulator ensures that the FBOs,
చూసి
the
పోల్చుకో
operators, manufacturers, vendors take their responsibility. We as consumers should also take our responsibility. I hope I answered. Professor Pulkit, you want to add anything?
మనసు
Yeah,
మరి
I just want to
మత్తుగా
add that we
తూగిపోతున్నదే
also take samples
ఏమో
of
ఈ
the food that we
వేళ.
serve, that we prevent, so that we can taste that also the kind of food that
అంతగా
break and also what could be bacterial, could be virus, could also be a fulfillment.
కిలాడి
Many of
కోమలి
these outbreaks could also be placed in the medical
గులేబ కావళి
so that investigation can happen and we identify
Yeah. Now, Sahil, do we have time for
I think we can take few more questions, sir. Because I can't, there are a lot of questions in the chat box and I'm getting consistently call
Yeah,
also.
okay.
So we have with us Mahesh Gupta ji. He is Mahesh Gupta ji की एक वेंडर है, इनका समोसा और जलेबी की दुकान है दिल्ली में. तो महेश गुप्ता जी, अगर आप हमें सुन सकते हैं और आप अपना सवाल पूछिए.
పైకితీయిలోన హాయిని బయట వేయి లోపలోడిని దాచుకోకు ఇంక దేనిని కోలేని పని తొంగి చూడు కింద నింగిని గాలికే కట్ట రంగుని నిన్న నింక నేడు మింగని దాంతో ఏం పని ఒక షాట్లో ఉత్సాహమే ఒక షాట్లో ఉల్లాసమే ఒక షాట్లో క్రోషమే